Welcome into episode 5 of the Full Moon Podcast. We got a great one for you today. We start with the Florida Panthers securing back-to-back Stanley Cup finals with that Game 6 win on Tuesday night. Then we move into some NBA finals. Hopefully Halliburton's playing tonight in Game 6. We touch a little bit on the Jaylen Brown trade rumors. His name's been popping up the past few days. Then we talk a little Rafi Devers as we have to. And then we move into the first ever Prosthetic Perspective, where we bring on my dad, everyone's favorite double amputee, Big John. John Webb's going to join us, where Prosthetic Perspective can bring you whatever's on his mind. He shared a couple stories of his trials and tribulations of being a double amputee. We talked about the Stanley Cup Finals. We talked some NBA. We talked Rafi Devers. We talked U.S. Open. We even touched on Karen Reed, who was found not guilty today on everything besides her OUI. And then we finished, as always, with Mailbag, Today on X, and State of the Moon. Hope you enjoy it. All right, today is Thursday. Recording on Wednesday, releasing Thursday, June 19th. And we might as well start with the Stanley Cup Finals coming to a close on Tuesday night. Oh, man. I wanted Connor McDavid to get one so bad. I wanted him to get one so bad. And as much as I dislike the Florida Panthers for what they did to the Bruins back in 2023 and 2024, if we're being honest, you more so wanted to see McDavid, the greatest hockey. Wayne Gretzky is still the great one. He's the greatest. But the most skilled hockey player we've ever seen, he's an alien out there on the ice. The stuff he does, man, he entertains us night in and night out, full winters into spring, and you just wanted to see him get one so bad. But the Florida Panthers, man, they are one of, if not the best, most built for playoff hockey teams of this modern era of the NHL. I mean, it's as the game was going away from physicality, not extreme. It was still hockey. Hockey's still a physical sport, but for a little bit there, they were talking about trying to take fighting out of the game, which I don't think hockey people would have ever allowed, but they were trying to steer it in a direction to just like football. You know what I mean? Just make it a little less physical, I guess a little safer, you could say. And then here comes this Florida Panthers team that says, oh, you want skill? We've got skill. But those same guys who've got the skill and are going to give you that flash, give you that type of game that you want, are also going to run through your fucking face and are psychotic. They're psychopaths. And just how deep that team is, the characters on the team, the goons that can also put the puck in the back of the net. And Brad Marchand, the greatest deadline acquisition of all time, just is a prime example of that. A guy who's going to get in the mix, a rat, just like we've talked about over the course of these episodes. A fucking rat who's just going to weasel his way under your skin, get physical, couple cheap jabs, talk some shit, but you can't really say anything because he's on the other end putting the puck in the back of the net. 6 goals for Brad Marchand over the course of the finals. As someone who's always loved Marshy for his time on the Bruins, it was cool to see him get one, but again, you just got to tip the cap to the Panthers. One of, you know what, I'm not even going to keep saying one of. From my short time of being a hockey fan, that's the greatest playoff hockey team I've ever seen, especially this year. Obviously, in years past, it's their third time in the Cup, third time in a row in the Cup final, going back-to-back, 1-2 in a row. This team just had it all, from goaltending to scoring to those playoff goons that you need come May and June. And it's interesting going into this offseason because you see a guy like Mitch Marner, who is one of those highly skilled players, one of the best offensive players in the league, right? He's a free agent in the same season as a guy like Sam Bennett, who is obviously an impact player, but is not going to make a ton of noise in the regular season, not nearly as much as Marner. Marner's the type of guy who's going to get you a high seed. He's going to win you games. But in hockey, more than anything, you really judge a player based on their playoff performance. What can they do when it matters most? How can they adjust to playoff style hockey? Which obviously in the regular season over the course a 62 can get lost, right? I mean, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong if that's not 62, but it's a long damn season. And that's part of the reason I love college hockey, because in conference and college hockey, it's playoff hockey for 3 months at a time, right? Before you even get to the playoffs. But anyway, it's a different tangent. Sorry. It's interesting. It's be interesting to see the value a team puts on a Sam Bennett versus a Marner, where Marner got embarrassed in the playoffs. The types of plays he was making, shying away from contact, trying to tiptoe around loose pucks, batting at it instead of going in and getting it in the corners. It's going to be, that guy is going to be asking for what? 12, 13 AAV? I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how much Bennett gets paid after proving that when the time comes for playoff hockey, Sam Bennett is there. He's the guy. Not the guy, but one of the top guys in the league. He's proven to be over the past couple of years that you're going to want on your team come playoff time. Versus Mitch Marner, who is going to win you a ton of regular season games, put up a shit ton of points, but when playoffs come, he's got some work to do. His style doesn't necessarily translate. So I'm excited to monitor that. And we'll move into some hoops here. NBA Finals. I'm really hoping Hallie plays tonight, man. I'm pulling for Hallie because that's the only way we get this thing to 7, which as a basketball fan with no dog in the fight, that's all you want. You just want 7 games, right? I mean, it's all you want. All you can ask for is 7 games. Sorry, I forgot to put my headphones in. That's all you can ask for is 7 games. And that, fucking say it again, Jack. That's all you can ask for. Just fucking say it again. God damn it. We're working on it. But yeah, I just think Jalen Williams, they're calling him J-Dub, just proved himself. All NBA player this year, really stepped up with that 40-plus point performance in Game 5. The thing I love about this Pacers team, though, and it's going to lead me to my next Celtics rant, is in this new era of NBA, they've just got that army of role players, and it's so interesting to watch. And I understand it probably won't go their way tonight. I think OKC could wrap it up if Hallie doesn't play. They're already 6.5-point favorites with with Halliburton's status up in the air. They're already 6.5-point favorites on the road in Indiana, which when you consider that Indiana environment and how they typically play in front of that environment, 6.5 points is a lot of damn points. So Vegas is really trusting OKC in Game 6, but it seems like that's going to be more of the trends in the NBA, is that Pacers style platooning, going 8 guys deep, maybe even 9 guys deep, because you just can't afford to have all these superstars. The era of the superstar and the super team is dead. It's done. And I think the Thunder are almost going to be probably the last version of that until they maybe change the CBA or take the luxury tax, that second apron, and ease up on the penalties. Because that goddamn second apron, man, that's more punishing than war crimes. I mean, that second apron, the more it plays out, and as the years go on, I think it took a while for people to truly comprehend the impact it would have on the league. Dude, I mean, it's more strict than some goddamn war crimes. It's insane. The punishments for going over that second apron, none of these owners are going to want to pay the luxury tax. That's why you just saw the Boston Celtics and Lakers get sold within a year. 2 of the biggest franchises in all of sports. Owners saying, oh, you know what, that's good for me. I'm taking my money and I'm running, because it's getting pricey, man. And I just think that the Pacers, obviously the Thunder, you could argue are star-studded, but you got a lot of guys on rookie deals. It's going to come a time where J-Dub's going to need his money. Chet's going to need his money if he keeps developing. So obviously SGA is going to get his bag. MVP, about to have a finals under his belt. I mean, they were talking about it on First Take, which First Take's a lot of eyewash these days, but they're talking about Shea gets this ring, MVP in a ring, already a Hall of Famer, which you can't argue with. That's a fact. So it'll be interesting to watch this play out and see the Pacers and how they can sustain this, because these role players who are proving themselves are going to get paid just a little bit more to go play a little bit bigger of a role on another team. So it'll be interesting to watch how they manage these next few off seasons, but they're a problem. They're here to stay. And that leads me to the Celtics, because the Celtics are one of, if not the team to watch this offseason with the moves they have to make so they don't get fucked by the luxury tax in that second apron. And Jaylen Brown, the rumor mill is flying around. He's been connected to the Spurs. A lot of people talking about Castle and either that number 2 or number 14 pick. And let's get something straight. Back before the new CBA, you don't think about trading Jaylen Brown, right? You're like, okay, him and JT are in lockstep. But then you see, like I said, the Pacers in this new era under the second apron and how much of an impact a guy like Castle could have on a rookie deal in Jason Tatum's prime. The flexibility, having a player like that on cheap money around Jason Tatum would free up money elsewhere to take advantage of your superstar's prime. And it just feels like you can't have $200-300+ million guys on the same roster and really hope to build out the rest of it well. Because you get rid of that $300 million in Jaylen Brown. Okay, then you got Derek White. Okay, maybe you can keep a Drew or a Kristaps and add maybe a couple other interesting pieces, 1 or 2 of those. And then I think though the pick is a big part of it. If they're willing to give up number 2 for JB, Castle and number 2 is a hell of a package. I don't know what you do with that number 2 pick. I think you only do it if you're Brad Stevens, who you trust, obviously, but you only do it if you love a guy there at number 2. I mean, my coworker Tyler Cruz was joking because we were just daydreaming about the possibility of the Celtics waving Jaylen Brown and maybe something else in front of the Dallas Mavericks for that number 1 overall pick in Cooper Flagg, and he made a joke about how that seems about as delusional as when Maine fans were getting their hopes up that maybe Cooper would somehow find it in his heart to come to the Black Bears and give up the multi-million dollars he'd make at Duke and NIL. So it's delusional thinking, but I just had to share that story because it's funny. But I think if that second overall pick is in play and a guy like Castle, who's a good fucking guard and on a rookie deal that you can take advantage of that time, give you a little flexibility under the cap, get that draft pick, draft the right guy. I mean, it would be a dream, but I'm not going to spend too much time just ranting about a rumor that probably is not going to come true in a million years. We'll touch on the Rafi Devers trade before getting to Big John. The shock was more about the entire body of work when that notification popped up on Sunday afternoon. When you look at all these situations in a vacuum, you understand all of them besides Mookie Betts. You understand Devers. He's a problem in the locker room. You bring in Bregman, who's doing all the right things. Bregman is exactly the type of player you want on your ball club. He's leading the young guys. He's doing whatever you need to get a win. I mean, the guy has a mustache in that first Yankees game, in the first game against the Yankees all season. Sox are getting killed. Walker Buehler's getting shelled. He goes and shaves the stash in between innings, comes out clean shaven because he was trying to, switch up the vibe, switch up the mojo. The guy just gets it. He would pitch if you asked him to pitch. It would not go well, but he would fucking do it. And that's the type of guy you want to pay the big bag to. And then you got Devers, who you paid 300 M's, and he doesn't even want to play first base. I mean, we touched on it with Big John. Big John said, and you're going to hear it from him later, obviously, but he said, you're getting paid 300 mil. It should be yes, sir. And the thing that is frustrating, though, about this is given how Rafi acted and how he was reluctant to kind of, you don't want to say fall into line, but be a team guy, gives the Sox an out because the Red Sox front office has just been a dumpster fire. When you look at the full body of work, Chris Sale, who's having just an unbelievable run with the Braves, pitching great. Xander, stud in Boston, not really working out in San Diego, but he still had some years left. You never know, what could have been. But San Diego gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. Mookie's inexcusable. The cheap pricks over there at Fenway Sports Group. The fact that you don't pay Mookie Betts is inexcusable. And then Devers, when you look at the full body work and the people, in the players, the Hall of Fame talent that they've just either traded away or let walk out the door is insane. And this all goes back, man. This franchise just can't learn from itself. This franchise was forever known for the franchise that traded away Babe Ruth. And you'd think, oh, we can't do that again. Let's make sure we don't do that again. And they just fucking do it, man. It's just a shit show. But listen, Zach Taranko, he's an optimist. He sees the good in this. He thinks it's a young guy's time. And I think something that's telling, which we talk about, is the way the players reacted. I think the players reacted in a way you didn't necessarily expect them to when a franchise trades away their cornerstone piece. But we get to this with Big John, so we might as well kick it to the interview. I mean, this is the first of many John Webb, Big John visits on this podcast. This is Prosthetic Perspective, where he comes on and shares his thoughts on whatever the hell we want to talk about, whether it's telling stories, comments on pop culture, comments on sports. We like to get him on and give him the floor because he's a legend. He's my dad. He's my role model. He's my hero. He is a guy who puts his legs on every day, rolls over out of bed, physically puts both his legs on, goes to work, and doesn't complain at all. It makes me wonder how he raised such a bitch in me. I remember I've had countless surgeries at this point from mainly football. Also fell down riding a bike. That's a time for a different story. But a lot of time I had to keep my bed. I had to sleep in the living room because I couldn't get up the stairs. On crutches, immobile, was going from the bed to the recliner, back to just on a rotation for weeks at a time, right, during these surgeries. Sitting there feeling sorry for myself, sulking. This guy walks downstairs, ready to go to work. 2 prosthetic legs. Smiling, laughing. I mean, he is a true American hero. He's an inspiration to us all. He's beloved by everybody that knows him. And I couldn't be more happy to have this conversation, and I couldn't be more thankful that I get to call this guy my father. And I could go on and on about this guy, but we'll kick it to the interview. All right, we're going to welcome in the big guy, Big John. He's a legend, the no-legged bandit, Maine Maritime graduate. Well, what would we call you? Owner and operator of the Webb Law Firm, just an all-around legend. If you know him, you love him. Dad, how we doing?
Good, big guy. How are you? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, no problem. We'll keep it formal. This is an official host and guest interaction here. This is not father-son. This is host and guest.
Oh, good. So I can actually be mean to you and it's okay?
Oh, okay. Here we go. Yeah, we're starting already. All right, first off, we got to ask, men's league match tonight, Wednesday night as always. How'd it go?
I was grinding. Came down to the last putt on the last hole. I had about a 6 or 7 footer left to right downhill, and I hit it in the hot and closed out the match.
Now, what was going through your mind as you're standing over that putt? Confidence, maybe a little shaky. JJ Spawn inspire you?
Yes, I knew it was. The problem was it was downhill and it had a little bit of a break to it, and my opponent had just missed a putt from the side, so he was in for 6. And if I'm in for 5, I win the match, and I made the putt. My opponent was great. Such a good guy, such a nice guy. It was a great match, and it came down to the last putt, and thankfully I made it.
Now, for those who don't know, my dad, Big John, is an American hero. He's probably one of the best golfers you know that doesn't have any legs. You got 2 prosthetic legs, and the guy doesn't complain. He doesn't bitch. He just gets out and gets after it. Now, I want to know, when you beat someone in men's league,
yes,
when they walk in to the clubhouse for the post-round dinner and the post-round drinks,
yes,
is it just chirps? I mean, you just lost to a guy with no legs. Can you see that reality set in for your opponent?
No, I think it used to be more like that at the very beginning when I first started. But now I think everyone's just accepted the fact that I'm a certified cripple, and they just deal with it. And I'm really, amongst people with no legs, there are a million guys, and women and men, who are better golfers than I am. Whoa. But certainly at my club, I am the only no-legged fat guy. No
The fat
question.
guy with no legs. I'll never
Yeah.
forget. We were, and this is legitimate. Like, you got those core memories. Like, you got a couple from your childhood. A core
Sure.
memory is I'm sitting there in the Little League dugout riding pine because for some reason you don't want to play me that night. And you get hit in the leg with a foul ball, and you're like, it's all fun and games till someone loses a leg.
That's what I told him. That's what I told the ump. It's all fun and games till someone loses a leg.
I mean, that's obviously what so many people appreciate about you, man, is like how if you don't laugh, you cry, right? You know what I mean? So you find a
Yeah.
good sense of humor about it. Is that something that, and this is something, I mean, no, we've talked about it a little bit, but you really find a good sense of humor with this stuff. I mean, and it rubs on to me, and this is the funny part, is it rubs on to me, right? Is your sense of humor about your situation. And then that's all I know is you
Oh,
joking about it and you being lighthearted about it. So then I go to make jokes to people, and you should see some of the looks I get
oh,
when I talk about, oh yeah, my dad's just a fat guy with no legs, or I make some type of legs joke, and they look at me like they're horrified.
yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've just come to accept the fact I don't have legs. And I think that you have to have a positive outlook. In joking around and making comments like that and dealing with it, I think is much better than waking up every morning and feeling sorry for yourself and, just going through the day like you've got a cloud over your head. One of my favorite things is that when you're on the first tee box, like the other day, and there's a bunch of people gathered around and they're all curious to see how the fat guy with no legs is going to hit it, and you absolutely stripe it down the middle. It's really fun to turn to them and go, "Hey, boys, not bad for a cripple, right?" And then there's that uncomfortable like laugh, and that to me is just the greatest reward for a job well done.
It is a job well done, and I think what's so fitting is you pulled that on Father's Day when we were playing on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, you can't
And
let that lie.
no, and that's the perfect mix of Father's Day dad joke with that. Now, before we get back to the golf and sports, now the story's on my mind. Can you please tell the story of when you're sitting there in the? It's not the you weren't in the courtroom, but you were in the side room in the courthouse, and the guy sitting next to you goes, "Mr. Webb, what did he say?
Oh,
The skinny ankle story. You know what I'm talking about.
he
Please tell the
goes,
story if you can."
yeah, the poor police officer looks at me and looks down at me, and the administrative judge is on a phone call, so there's that kind of uncomfortable time period, and he looks down at me and goes, "Dude, you have got the skinniest ankles I've ever seen." And I just looked at him and I go, thank you very much. And then I just very quietly reached my hand down to my pant leg and started pulling my pant leg up. And then you could just see the look of horror spreading across his face. And the administrative judge on the phone is basically looking at both of us like, "Oh my God, what did you just
Did
say
he
to
really
Attorney
just
Webb?"
fucking say that?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what did you just say to Attorney Webb? You could see it all over her face. So I ended up winning the hearing by the grace of God, and I go out to the parking lot, and I was just kind of learning how to walk at that point. I was still pretty shaky, and there's the police officer leaning on the corner of my wheelchair van, waiting for me just to say one more time, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed." And I told him, "Don't worry. I think it's hysterical, and that's how you get through your day."
It is how you get through your day. It's how you've gotten through your whole life and been such a joy in everyone else's life. But one of the things that's the craziest part to me about that story, who says to someone, "Hey, you got skinny,
Oh yeah,
you guys," like that's a crazy comment to begin with, and then
yeah.
you get
No,
to smack them over the head with a prosthetic.
yeah, he acknowledged the fact that he doesn't know what he was thinking. And then when he realized there was not just one prosthetic, but two prosthetics. And I of course told him I won the daily double. It's just like Jeopardy.
Just like
It's
Jeopardy.
yeah.
See, this is the problem now is there's all these stories because you're a fucking legend and you have all these so many good ones. Now, I promise we'll get to sports after this one. Can we tell them about the Mets game and when they're giving you a hard time
Oh,
and
oh,
the guy's giving you a hard time with
oh, yeah.
handicap seating, right? I mean, with
Yeah.
handicap parking.
Pete from Great Britain's driving, one of the great engineer, mechanical engineer, one of the greatest guys you'll ever know. His daughter was in Jenna's adoption group. And so we roll up to the new Met Stadium, Citibank Stadium, whatever it's called. And he starts explaining to the person at the booth why we're there. And the guy just starts giving Pete a really hard time about, you don't have approved handicap parking. I mean, look at you. You look fine to me. I reach down, I pop. This is in my old legs where I had the button. I pop the button on my left leg. I hold up the prosthetic and I try to pass the prosthetic in front of Pete to the guy and say, "Hey, wait a minute. There's one more of these. Let me grab my other leg and I'll hand that to you too." And then the guy looks in, sees the leg I'm trying to hand him across Pete's chest. Then he looks down and sees my other leg, and then the guy's face just goes as white as white can be. And I thought he was going to pass out. And he's like, oh, no, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Before you know it, I've got an escort by NYPD down to the front row by the escalator, I guess, that took you up the stairs there. And yeah, it was you were there. It was just classic.
And that's how you turn into City Field royalty, folks. So
yeah, it was great. And poor Pete is such a gentleman.
Yeah,
he would never say anything bad. He would never swear, and he was dying. He was just dying.
It's a gem of a story, and I think that's why everyone who listens to this that knows you is not going to be surprised. But I wanted to get this on the books because you're going to be a recurring guest. You might be the most recurring guest on this podcast, right? Thanks. Because we're going to call it Prosthetic Perspective.
Thanks.
But we need people to understand why it's going to be prosthetic. You know what I mean?
Yes. So, there's nothing better than trying to jam my first prosthetic into that guy's hands and then saying, wait, there's another one. Here, take this one. I've got one more. The poor guy. Yeah.
The amount of uncomfortable moments growing up, the amount of little kids in elevators staring at your metal ankles, man. It's unreal.
Yeah. And then we're at Disney, and as I come off the elevator, the young mom is horrified because the kids pointing at me going, Mom, look at that guy. And she's like, Bobby, stop it. He goes, no, Mom, he's got rocket legs. It was so great. And I just gave him a fist bump as I went wheeling out of the elevator in my wheelchair.
Dude, you were the fucking man, dude.
It was a great day in America.
You are the best. Well, that is why we could do this for hours. So
maybe next time we'll tell the story about the flight attendant that told me to get my foot out of the aisle. When she came back down the aisle, I handed her my leg and said, "Mission accomplished. Can you put this in the overhead for me?" Right. She did. She was. Yeah. And then someone in my row leans over and says to her, I think he's a lawyer on top of everything else. Oh, God.
Holy I fucking love you, man. All right. We're going to get to sports.
All right, go ahead.
We're going to get to sports. We're going to have plenty more of that, where that came from. That's why you always tune into Prosthetic Perspective here on the Full Moon Podcast. But we're going to give you another reason why we're finally going to dive into the sports. And now I'm sure listeners are talking, why are they diving into sports? Let's just get more of these stories. There's more to come.
They've already turned it off and gone on to something else. One of the two.
If they're watching the video version, they're turning it off because we're too fucking big uglies. But okay, first let's talk about this U.S. Open. JJ Spawn, we watched it, and it was weird, right? The weather delay brings us to Tiger in 08, which honestly kept us going. I was back and forth making Father's Day dinner, which is breakfast for dinner, in case you're wondering at home. Just what'd you make of that final round at Sunday? What'd you make of Oakmont and how that finished up?
Okay, number one, I'm in love with Oakmont. I put my handicap into the USGA simulator, and I think it said that if I played Oakmont in the condition it was in for the US Open, I think I would have shot 130. I think that's what the app said. And the USGA has done such a wonderful job with that app. I'm in love with it. So I had picked. I know I'm going to say Sam Bennett, but that's because I'm addicted to hockey. But I had picked Sam Burns to finish in the top 5. Okay. I had Scotty Scheffler to win. I had Sam Burns in the top 5. I had Keegan Bradley. I had Ben.
This is your like pool, right? This is your team that you assembled in your pool.
What was the young man's name that just won a couple of weeks ago before Scotty did?
Oh God, you're going to put me on the spot here. We're both going to butcher.
To get old. So I was going into the last round, number 1 in my pool. I'd been number 1 start to finish, and then all of a sudden, and I will say honestly, Sunday morning I wake up, I'm going to go play my own little golf match, and I'm looking at my phone thinking JJ Paulson's out of it. I mean, just
JJ Spawn, you mean?
Spawn, I mean,
yeah, JJ Spawn,
yeah, JJ Spawn's out of it, and I don't have a thing to worry about. I'm going to be wire to wire winner. And then, as we know, we got into the whole afternoon, and all of a sudden there's a rain delay, and there are some questionable rulings, in my opinion, with respect to poor Sam.
Can I get your take on that fairway lie? I think it was on 15 that where he's hitting. I mean that the turf is above, just floating on a puddle of water. What'd you make of that?
I just didn't understand how he did not get relief from that. I'll never understand how he did not get relief from that. But obviously JJ came back, and God bless him, tip of the cap to him, saluted him when he was on 18 getting his trophy. And, I went from number 1 to I think number 4 or 5 in the pool, but that's why we play the games, as they say. And
Yep.
it was really fun. We had such a great time. Even your grandfather, my dad, Pop Webb, even he was tuned in. And it was just a great Father's Day. And I couldn't have been more excited. It's as exciting as it was back when Tiger was still around, and it'll never be like that again.
It will that, and you say that you kept saying that over and over again when they're showing Tigers Saturday in '08. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on what you mean by you will never see that again? Like, how to you, how special was watching Tiger out there in his prime?
It was so special. You knew that you were witnessing. That's the Dutch. Dutch is fired up. You knew you were witnessing. You were witnessing greatness, and you knew what you were watching you'd never see again.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought back then that we had a long road to go. I thought we were just strapping in for the beginning of a historically long, unbelievable career. And at the end of the day, he ended up getting injured, and the surgeries and the leg issues and everything else.
And he made some choices. Well, good old Tiger.
Well, let's not, I mean, we all make choices. That's why we have criminal defense lawyers. But no, he was just, I still just think he's so great. But yeah, that's what I thought back then. And, you look back on it now, and as I said to you, no less than 12 times on Father's Day, we'll never see anything like that again, at least in my lifetime.
And I think what people loved about him, what they were talking about on Twitter, and is just a showmanship, right? Is like how he's not just this another PGA robot, right? That he was, he engaged with the crowd. He showed emotion. I mean, the moments just seemed electric.
Yes. And one of the things that irritates me slightly about Rory is his apparent reluctance to give the kids fist bumps and interact with the crowd. And I know he's probably going through some troubled times, but I wish he would be, more outgoing and more interactive, and you just don't see that. But when you see like Ricky Fowler, when he's on fire, I mean, Ricky's interacting with the crowd and Ricky's showing emotion, and I personally just love that.
And I think that's why a lot of people loved Bryson, right? When Bryson was really hot this time last year, he wins the U.S. Open. He's doing all the YouTube stuff. He's kind of bringing that audience in, which, again, he gains all that momentum, and then he goes back to live and loses some of it. You know what I mean? So that's a different conversation. But I kind of want to touch on Rory. Rory is the exact opposite of what people were rooting for at Augusta, right? He was the people's champ at Augusta. Everyone, the entire golf world, besides the real haters of Roy McIlroy, were cheering for him to get that career Grand Slam. And now he's just turned into this entitled prima donna. Basically, you thought that he was going to win that Masters tournament, and it was going to be a weight off his shoulders. He was going to be grateful. He's going to be thankful. He's just going to be floating around out there from here on out, right? He's just got this new sense of just being a prick, really. I mean, what do you make of him skipping all this media availability? And I want to get this on the record, too, before you elaborate here. I truly do believe that it is an athlete's responsibility to talk to the media, because the media is your outlet to the public for the most part. Right after something like that, they can go on their own podcast, and I understand people talking about new media. I think it's an athlete's responsibility, because without fans, athletes are nothing. They're just playing sports just like us. There's not millions of dollars being thrown around. Fans drive it all. So I think they owe it. So I just wanted to get that on the record. Okay, elaborate on what you make of Rory.
No, I don't really have much to elaborate on. I really think he does have that obligation. And I was a little disappointed on Sunday to hear him say, "I've earned the right to ignore you." Oh, okay. I guess you have. That's fine. If you feel you've earned the right to ignore us, then carry on. But I feel badly about that, and I hope he reconsiders it. One of my pet peeves in baseball is after you've thrown a near no-hitter, or you've had just an outstanding outing, or you've come in as middle relief, when you walk off the field and there are 37,000 fans in Fenway Park applauding for you and giving you a standing ovation, would it kill you to look up at the crowd, take your hat, tip your hat, nod in approval, or nod, at least acknowledge the fact the fans are going crazy, instead of completely ignoring him? And I've always told the really fantastic baseball players that have come from the Stanford Mariners who've talked about their future, and I always say to them, please, whatever you do, don't ignore the fans, because that's who's paying your tab. I mean, I know it's the TV contract, but you know who watches TV? The fans.
Correct.
So don't ignore the fans. And if you're a pitcher and you're walking off the field, you take your cap and tip your cap, or you nod to them, or you wave to them. You just acknowledge the fact that they're there. These guys that just are too cool to acknowledge the fans and walk off the field like they're not there. And Jeff Singer, who stayed with us, who eventually went for a cup of coffee with the Phillies. I can remember, well, he stayed at our house, so I had plenty of time to give him a hard time. But I used to tell him all the time, bro, when you make it to the big show, don't ignore the fans. And that's what I feel like Rory's doing now.
Yeah, and I love that. And actually, we'll slide right into baseball. I mean, that news dropped and threw our Father's Day for a whirl. Rafael Devers getting traded to the Giants for a couple prospects. And in a reliever, of course. I mean, I think closer. Sorry, I should know my facts here. We're doing this after a long work day. What do you make? And I understand you were on the team of good riddance to Rafi, right? So let's let you get that take off first.
No, I just think when you're making that kind of money and you're the Boston Red Sox and you've been just god awful for the last few years, and we're starting to finally put a few pieces of the puzzle together, and then you now are down a first baseman and down a third baseman. I think if the skipper, if Alex Cora, the field manager, the skipper says to you, I need you to play third base, or I need you to play first base for, $3 million a year, whatever, $300 million a year, pardon me, or whatever your contract was. I think you say, I like it here. I love it here. I think I found a home here, sir. I don't think you say, no, I'm not doing that. I just don't know who you are. Now, I also heard from Pedro Martinez today that he thinks he's a great teammate. He thinks this is all a pack of lies, and he still doesn't know why Rafi got sent to the West Coast. But I view it, and I'm no Pedro Martinez. I appreciate that. But I still see it as him shooting his way out of town. And, I'm of the opinion that once you tell the skipper that you won't play third and you won't play first and you won't do anything but DH now, and I'm not saying they didn't mishandle the situation. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, you're still getting paid no matter how that situation was, how that situation evolved. And you need to get on the field and you need to earn your money and you need to do what's in the best interest of the team, not in the best interest of you. And I kind of saw that as a little diva conduct on his part. And when we heard on Father's Day he was gone, was I surprised? Sure. But I was not shedding a tear for a Raf, and I wish him nothing but the best out on the West Coast.
Yeah, and I think too, what's frustrating about it is it's just the whole body of work, right? And before I get to this, I think the Pedro thing, that quote made its rounds around social media. That's a personal relationship, right? And I think, that's one end of the spectrum of a personal relationship. The next is Big Papi. Big Papi shared his story and his experience with Devers, talking about, I reached out and the feeling was not mutual between Rafi. Sometimes you wouldn't even respond to Big Papi, a fellow, slugger for the Sox who's a legend in Boston for life, right? And so I think the thing that tells you the truth, in my opinion, is the way the locker room responded, right? They responded with a win in Seattle. They responded with some quotes in the media that were not how you would expect when a franchise just deals their cornerstone player, right?
Yeah, I think with respect to that issue you just raised, the one thing that shocked me was Facebook, Instagram, all the other social media platforms. The big players, the big hitters, the folks who are the quote unquote leaders of the Boston Red Sox.
Correct.
There were no posts about gonna miss you, Raf. Sorry it worked out like this, or God bless, fair winds and following seas. We'll be thinking of you. I think the only one that I saw that posted anything was the skipper, Alex Cora, posted up, Raf, it's been a great few years. Good luck on the West Coast. There wasn't this outpouring like you usually see of all the players leaving, and it's going to be interesting to see if Rafael Devers turns out to be Brad Marchand, who just absolutely positively made me cry again last night when you just saw how good he was. Not that I ever forgot how good he was, but just to see him interacting with a team that appreciated and complimented his game. And those two goals he scored in game 4, I guess it was, those two breakaway goals, especially the last one. I mean, I don't even know what to say. And I'm not trying to change the subject, but I'm just saying that I whatever happens to Rafael Devers, good luck to him. I hold no ill will but I'm just happy that we've cleared the deck, and what happens now happens. And we may look back at this in 6 months and say, oh my God, what are we thinking? But for now,
Yeah,
it is what it is.
I mean, it's going to be interesting this weekend, right? Rafi's going to see these Sox over there in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I guess that is when you look at some of these situations in a vacuum. I think for both Xander and Devers, there are good arguments to be made on letting them go, letting Xander go and then trading Rafi, right?
Yep.
But I think what really frustrates Sox fans and why seemingly Red Sox Nation had a full active PTSD episode when they traded Rafi with their reaction is because when you look at the total body of work, the Sox let their three best players, four, if you want to add Chris Sale, even though, again, in a vacuum, Chris Sale's situation was up and down in Boston. A lot of injuries, inconsistent, didn't necessarily give you enough at the time to keep going with him, right? But with the whole body of work, you got rid of Sale, you got rid of, don't Mookie's the one that makes this all bad, right? I think Mookie's the one that makes this whole thing a disaster. And then, then you had Xander and now Devers. I think that's where the Red Sox frustration lies. What do you make of the big picture?
Let's not forget Chris Sale down in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Dealing.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I mean, my friends out in San Diego are of the opinion that Xander hasn't turned out to be everything they'd hoped that he would be.
Correct.
But certainly Mookie. I mean, that's just heartbreaking.
So what? Yeah, I mean, that's unforgivable. You know what I mean? And I think this all stems, in my opinion, it all stems back to ownership. John Henry, it doesn't seem like he's serious about considering your business, whatever it's called. I don't know the correct proper term for it. Fenway Sports Group. Fenway's in the name. It seems to be the franchise he cares the least about.
Well, with respect to the $250 million he now has back because San Francisco took over all of the Devers contract, let's just hope he reinvested in the Red Sox and not a European football team over in the across the pond over in England. So
that's what you have to hope, and it seems like that's where a lot of his focus is, and a decent amount of his money's going to, right? Which is obviously. A lot of people are saying Liverpool's two new signings are why he traded Rafi, which I don't necessarily buy, but he's done enough, cheap shit in the past to raise an eyebrow and say, I wonder if that is true. But we will segue to hockey now. What'd you make of the Florida Panthers lifting the cup last night?
I mean, I'm in love with their manager, with their head
Paul
coach.
Maurice.
I mean,
fuck off.
I'm in love with him. I've always been in love with Marchand. I mean, I can never just let that go. I thought, I don't know how I feel. I mean, I'm glad Evander Kane went after Kachuk. And now he's getting grief because he didn't come out for the handshake line. I think that was probably a good thing because he probably avoided a felony charge.
Correct.
I'm not sure that and rightfully so, I'm not sure he could have held his temper. I guess when I laid in bed last night and started thinking about the whole game, I think that the one thing that I really felt badly about was Corey Perry. I mean, he won in 2007, 2008, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. He won the ring with the Ducks, right? With the Anaheim Ducks. He won and he lost 5 since then.
Unreal.
He lost one with
2020.
Yeah, Dallas.
To now.
He lost one with Tampa. He lost
Oilers.
One with and then 2 with the Oilers.
Who were we missing?
He lost one with the Canadians.
That's right. That's right. To Vegas.
And the last 2 years he's lost. And the look on his face last night, as not only a fat guy with no legs, but also as a guy who's already played 18, and now I'm in the clubhouse having a couple hot dogs and a Diet Coke at age 64. My heart went out to him because that he knows he's on the clock.
Oh yeah, he's been on the clock too.
Yeah, and then you contrast that against how great it was, I thought, last night to see Marchand get another ring to go with the one he got in Boston. Just his family in the stands, and when they asked him about his mom, after Game 3, did you hear her screaming at you behind the net? And he said, "Yeah, you need to put a muzzle on my mom." I mean, he's just such a classic. He's such an entertainer, and I know he's the guy that you hate unless he's on your team. Mm-hmm. He's that guy, but I'm in love with the guy. I really am, and I was very happy for Florida, and I also think that because this is how old I am, and I am old school. And I also think that, if you're one of the original NHL, original six, I think that you have to, you got to think about these folks down in these upstarts down in Florida, in that nice warm weather, winning, all those cups. And then we don't have time for this today, but I'd love some time to talk about the tax ramifications of these contracts, depending on whether you play in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or whether you play in Florida.
Well, yeah.
That's a whole nother issue for another day.
The jock tax.
Yeah, I just, yeah.
Let's Massachusetts, these Boston teams, that jock tax. See what you're costing. Yeah. See what you're, But anyway,
no, that's how I feel about that.
Hey, speaking of the Commonwealth,
yes,
big verdict.
Yes,
big verdict this afternoon. Karen Reed innocent. Now we have, here at the Full Moon Podcast, we got sources for everything. We got people for everything. We got sources for everything. Karen Reed comes along. We got a defense attorney on speed dial. Big John, you got the floor.
No, it's a short floor. I can't believe that the jury hung the first time. I've never, ever, once I started to hear the evidence come in back in the first trial, I never, ever understood how we got there. I wasn't sure how she was charged. I'm not sure, and I'm certainly going to be the last person to ever criticize the FBI, but they did some kind of investigation about the potential issues with law enforcement. I don't know how that turned out as being a non-event based on the evidence that we've seen. And then this whole trial, the more evidence that came in, the more you're sitting there going, why are we here? Like, how did this get charged a first time, say nothing about a second time? And then you listen to some of the experts and you listen to the Commonwealth's own medical examiner and the experts that they just spent an outrageous amount of money on. And then there was today where you've got, from what we heard, now I can't verify this, but from what we heard on the radio and in quote unquote real time, there's a knock on the door. We have a verdict. They hand the verdict slip to the bailiff, and then a few seconds later knocks on the door and says, no, we don't have a verdict. And so the judge took the verdict slip and sealed it in an envelope and wrote something on it. I've never heard of that nor seen it in my life. I'm not saying it hasn't happened before, and a verdict's not final until it's read before the judge. But just the whole thing, just to me, kind of underscored what a wacky trial this has been, or what a wacky 2 years this has been. What am I talking about? And then you come back on not guilty on murder, not guilty of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in a death, and then you're guilty of the DUI. So my running theory, until we're told otherwise, and I'm sure we will be, is that it was some kind of compromise verdict where you've got 2 or 3 people on the jury that said, hey, after 2 years, we're just not going to let her go for nothing. We're not going to let her walk out that door unscathed. So they compromised to a misdemeanor DUI. And at the end of the day, the Commonwealth tells the judge, just go ahead and sentence her to a first offense DUI in Massachusetts like you would any other person that just walked in off the street and pled guilty to OUI. So, so she gets 6 months of probation, and she does the 36-hour program, or whatever they call the Massachusetts alcohol program down there, and she's done. So, it's been 2 years, I would imagine $1 million+ at this point for her. And you saw the crowd outside the courthouse. It was absolutely stunning to see the number of people that were there either cheering her on or booing her on, depending on what team you were on.
Well, she's a polarizing figure now, right?
Yeah,
in you know way too many people in the Massachusetts law world for us to be digging into the sketchy shit going on, and we're also not an investigative podcast, so we'll leave it at that. But one more question, though, actually on this subject. So there's no statute of limitations on DUI.
Well, there is a statute of limitations on DUI, but they've certainly not fallen outside. And I don't know what it is in Massachusetts. Yeah. I'm going to assume it's 6 years, like it is most places. So yeah, there's no dismissal to be made. And I don't know whether the first try stays the statute of limitations or not. But no, that's not an issue in my mind.
Dad, you are. This was an unbelievable debut to the Full Moon Podcast. You got anything you had on your mind you wanted to share or get off?
No,
you're good.
I appreciate you having me on. I'm extremely proud of you for doing this, and I love you. And I'm just flattered that you brought the old man, a couple of legs and a bag of bones, and put him on your podcast. I'm super. I'm super happy about that. Thank you.
No,
I'm
of
honored.
course. I mean,
Honored.
you are the number one person that people requested to be on. So you know what I mean. Whether I liked it or not, you were going to be coming on. I
I
guess
think that calls into question the taste and the analytical thinking of your friends, but I appreciate that.
good point. So we got President's Cup this Saturday, right? We got a President's Cup match,
We got a Ryder Cup style match.
Ryder Cup style match.
Yeah, down at Sanford Country Club, and I don't know, I don't know how that's going to go, but hopefully Dutch Elm will do well, and I'll certainly be cheering them on.
Give him hell, Dad. I will. I'll actually see you tomorrow. So I'll see you on Thursday.
Looking forward to it.
Love you, man.
Love you, pal. See you.
All right. Thanks again to Big John for coming on. I mean, the guy's just the best. Again, I love him to death. Love him more than word can describe, really. Again, could go on and on about him, but we got to move on here. We're going to the fun part of the episode. We got the mailbag. This guy Chan. Can we get some mailbag questions? I understand not a ton of people listen, but if you think of something random or just something fun, maybe give it to me. We got Chandler here. My buddy Chandler Bilodeau. He's one of those guys, man. From the north, born and raised in Arundel, Maine. Goes to college in the South, never to be seen again. Moved to Jacksonville, Florida. It's a treat when we get to see him these days, but he gave me a question. Alabama alum. Alabama football record prediction and thoughts on the fans, me, bullying DeBoer into losing the goddamn hoodie and the hat and throwing on a polo and some khakis. I think that we got to give a round of applause to Chandler Bilodeau for bullying DeBoer into turning into an actual SEC coach and taking himself seriously instead of wearing a hoodie on the sidelines. You're talking about a school where Bear Bryant wore a suit, a tie, and a goddamn fedora. And you had Kalen DeBoer out there in one of those lightweight hoodies. Come on. It's not a serious football program. So shout out to Chandler for changing his mind. We're going to load up right here on the spot. On the spot, Alabama football schedule. Week 1. Week 1, we open up at Florida State. Might be a neutral site game. That week 1, August 30th, is always a little sketchy, but Florida State's the bottom team, so we're going to say they're the home team. That's a win for the Tide. 1-0. Louisiana Monroe. Don't even need to talk about it. 2-0. Wisconsin at home. Easy. Roll Tide. Then you got Georgia, week 4. These early season Bama-Georgia matchups are real interesting, man. Real interesting. None of these teams necessarily at their best yet, and you just get thrown a beast, an ultimate rivalry right off rip. We're going to say they lose that one, 3-1 against Georgia. Vanderbilt, listen, Diego Pavia has been talking crazy. I don't know if anyone heard him on Bussin' with the Boys, seen any clips. That guy's talking out his ass, but I respect his game. I respect the hell out of Pavia's game. He just came on Bussin' with the Boys and admitted that he has the motivation and turned himself into an SEC quarterback because his ex-girlfriend didn't want him. And he just kept that. That's the fuel he's used for years now. You got to respect that. And you also got to respect the gamer that he is. I mean, this is a guy who got in trouble because he went to New Mexico State before Vanderbilt. And he got not caught. His idiot teammates took a video of him, which that's just how it works in today's society. You can't get away with nothing. I'm a culprit of that. I'm a big content guy. I'm always recording shit. Took a piss on New Mexico, the Lobos, not New Mexico State, their rival, New Mexico. Took a piss on their indoor facility logo. I mean, a guy who, you know what? I don't want to get him in any trouble, but has bet on himself, literally and figuratively. He's a gamer. So I'm actually gonna mark the roll. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going there. That's the home game for the Tide, October 4th. We're gonna mark that down as a win. So we've got Bama at this point at October 4th. We've got them 4-1 with a loss to Georgia at Missouri. That's gonna be a tough one. See, so much of this is about Bama's quarterback play. It's a question mark. I'm gonna give him a loss. I'm gonna give him a loss at Missouri. Here we are at 5-2, going into Tennessee at home. I mean, these SEC schedules, man, they're brutal. But I got to speed this up. Nobody wants to hear me just fucking mull over an Alabama record. So we're going to give them a win against Tennessee at home. They moved to 6-2. A loss at South Carolina. They moved to 6-3. This schedule's brutal. We're going to give them a win against LSU, 7-3. A win against Oklahoma at home, 8-3. Eastern Illinois, November 22nd. I mean, that's just fucking eyewash. But when you got that tough of a schedule, I'll tip the cap. What do we have them? 7-3, 8-3 at Auburn. We'll give them 9-3. 9-3, another sketchy conversation to get into the playoff. Chandler, that's what I got for you. All right, today on X, I just need to talk about how unserious we have become as a society. You got Iran and Israel in the middle of kicking up a major war, and you just go on X, on Twitter, and people are just joking about it, telling them Iran plays, a weak schedule, telling them the U.S. plays an SEC schedule that Iran couldn't last in the. I mean, just jokes all around, and I just think it's where we've come as society, with everyone having a voice now with their own individual accounts, especially these burner accounts where, this is not, unless someone, really doxes you, you're not getting this traced back. The average human can't trace back a burner account, right? You need some computer whiz to do that. But every conversation you've ever had with your buddies is now had online, especially on X, in some of these comment sections and things of that nature. I mean, the way the internet has reacted and the way they've joked about it, which, to Big John's credit, which we talked about, if you don't laugh, you cry. So part of me does think it's funny, even though some of these jokes are pretty nuts, because it's hard to keep a lot of things, heavy topics. When you keep them lighthearted, you don't laugh, you cry. So I can get on board with that. But dude, it's crazy, just the way how just unserious we've become as society, and how groupthink is at an all-time high. And the conversation you have with your buddies, the jokes you crack, in a setting where back in the day, these are serious issues, world issues. And okay, maybe you're sitting next to your buddy, you crack a joke about it, right? That stays between, you and him, and you guys have a laugh. Now those are had all over the internet, all over the world, which is just insane to watch unfold. The memes that pop up, the ties into, American culture and funny references to culture of that nature is just hilarious. But we'll go to State of the Moon. Loved having Big John on. Rambled a little too much today. I got to learn to wrap up the thoughts better. That's my what I'm taking away from this episode. We got to learn to wrap it up and not repeat ourselves so much. But again, we're growing. One thing I do have to say, though, I tip the cap to all the motherfuckers getting it done out there in the world. I've been trying to adjust and really take this podcast serious and put some time and effort into it. Dude, when you really map out a day and you factor in your main job, which this is not my main job. My main job is a sports reporter. You really got to sacrifice time for yourself. I mean, man, and this is how much growing up I got to do, and how you really got to utilize all these hours of the day. By the time, you worry about, you go to the gym, you get a workout in, you cook some food, okay, you go to your main job, and then you use the time to work on this podcast. I need to clip farm more. I got to be better pushing clips out there, trying to grow the podcast, because that comes at a decision, and it's a grown man decision. Do I want to sit here and watch this episode of Tires or insert show, or do I want to clip farm and grind out some clips? And it's a tough choice, man. And I haven't been making the right one recently. I haven't been making the right one. I need to be better. I mean, I haven't played Xbox since we started the pod. I mean, listen, and that sounds like a 15-year-old kid thing to say. Well, newsflash. You can probably tell by now I'm about 15 at heart. So it's just the time you got to commit to getting serious about something like this. Tip my cap to all the hustlers out there who are getting it, sacrificing their free time. I got to get like you. All right. Thank you for listening. Full Moon, episode 5. We're 5 episodes in. This is when the former Full Moon podcast back in 2019 came to a halt. So next week, when we bring you episode 6, we got a good one too. It's going to be a NBA draft preview with a USA basketball video coordinator, Anthony Perrone. We're going to break through that seal. and we're going to keep on pushing. Thanks for listening.